Bismillah. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. Hey there, I'm Zahra from Education.com, and I train Muslim teachers and homeschoolers on curriculum, teaching strategies, and Islamic integration. Now, today I want to talk to you about an important topic and then offer you some tips and resources to help you become a better Muslim educator, bi'idhnillah. Now, I know you are all aware, many of us we're all aware of the unrest that's taking place in the United States of America over the killing of Mr. George Floyd, an African American who was murdered at the hands of the police. Now, this is a story that is, subhanAllah, far too common, and protests in solidarity with Black Americans have spread all over the world. And alhamdulillah, people are finally starting to believe that Black lives matter too. Even after 400 years of dehumanization and oppression, people are starting to realize that the intentional and systemic crimes committed against Black people are, as I said, systemic and built into the system. These crimes and this oppression is sewn into the fabric of the system. It is a system of white supremacy, an evil ideology, and a cult which largely depends on the subjugation of others. White supremacy is a global issue, and it is a threat to world peace. Now, today, I want to focus specifically on the plight of black people and anti-Black racism. However, when we talk about white supremacy, it's not only Black people who are affected by this. Okay, as Muslims, we know the effects and the impacts that colonialism had on us and our nations and on our worldview, and the impact continues up until today. And so as Muslims, we really have to be educated on how white supremacy and colonialism, which was driven by white supremacy, impacts us, our countries, and our education, regardless of our so-called independence. But I'm not getting into that topic today. Today, I wanted to speak specifically about anti-Black racism and how you can address it as an educator of young Muslim children. Regardless of whether you homeschool or you teach other children or you're just a parent, if you are responsible for the tarbiyah of a child, then this video will be helpful to you, inshallah. Now, this video is not a message only for my non-Black Muslim brothers and sisters, but it's also a message for my melanin brothers and sisters. So you may be thinking, well, wait, I'm not a racist, I'm not anti-Black, and I'm definitely not teaching my children to be. And yeah, I believe you. But the truth is, if you were educated and raised upon a Western curriculum, which most of us are, regardless of where you were educated or where you lived, whether it's in the East, the West, or the South, then you most likely have some implicit racial biases towards all non-whites, and especially Black people. And this includes you even if you are Black. See, I'm Black, I'm a Somalian Muslim Canadian, and I thought I was woke, and I thought I was anti-racist until I did my master's in education, and I realized just how much unlearning and self-checking I had to do and continue to do, and how many beliefs I had about our people and about indigenous Black people of the Americas that were rooted in anti-Blackness. Even though I am a Black Muslim female minority, I still had a lot of learning and unlearning to do. So no one is immune. It's just the way the dominant culture operates. And the anti-Black narratives and stereotypes are just too prevalent, and they have become the normal worldview. And that's why it's important for us to recognize it, point it out, and then unlearn it, so that we can start to do the work to live in a more racially just society. Not just racially diverse, but racially just, where all races are treated equal, okay, and not just tolerated. Anyway, in this video, I want to cover a few things around the topic from an educational perspective, and then share some tips and resources that can help you start to transform your approach to education, so that you can start taking a more anti-racist approach, a deliberate, intentional approach towards addressing racial inequalities within your teaching and within the tarbiyah of your students or children. And whatever resources I mentioned, or links or websites or articles, inshallah, I'll link it to the blog post section of this video. So come back to meccacentriceducation.com and you should find it there, inshallah. Now, I want to talk about anti-racist pedagogy specifically as it relates to anti-blackness, which is unfortunately not only a white in America issue, but it is prevalent in Muslim communities and even in religious spiritual communities. Now, why am I even doing this video? To be honest, I had a different blog post that I was preparing with a ton of resources on the belief of the angels, the 6 Pillars of Iman series that I've been working on. And to be honest, I'm 39 weeks pregnant, so I'm about to pop any day soon. So I was trying to pre-record and batch my blog post so that I can still continue to share things with you all even after I give birth. So I wasn't too, so I mean, it really wasn't on my agenda to do a post specifically on social justice pedagogy or anti-racist pedagogy, but because of everything that's happening now, I thought it would be a good idea to share some resources and just share some things that I have learned or I know about from an educational perspective, because there are actual teaching styles and teaching strategies that you can employ. And I was really I've been caught up with preparing for labor and things like that, so I didn't think of producing or publishing anything. And specifically because there's a lot of people who are, Allahumma barik, far more involved and more knowledgeable on the topic, that have already been sharing and discussing this topic. And then my husband showed me a clip of a young Somali man saying the most outrageously ignorant things about the killing of Mr. George Floyd. The brother, who is an apparently practicing Muslim, was basically saying that the voluntary sunnah acts of the religion are more beloved to him, and he swore by Allah that they are more beloved to him than this issue regarding George Floyd. And he mentioned the wiping over the socks for wudu, and the sunnah of eating dates, and the rulings of making dua and using the miswak are all more beloved to him and more important to him than all of Black Lives Matter. And for the life of me, I just cannot fathom the level of jahl and ignorance that could come out of a Muslim's mouth, let alone a Black Muslim. Not just the ignorance, but to be frank, the outright stupidity and the insensitivity and the lack of any human decency, like the basis of our deen, the basis of who we are as Muslims. We're the forefront and the first to reject oppression. And to say that aspects of the sunnah, which are voluntary, by the way, are more beloved to you than the removal of oppression, that you care more about the sunnah acts than seeing an oppression lifted, when fighting and rejecting oppression is an obligation. As the Prophet ﷺ said, whoever sees a munkar or an evil should change it with his hands. And if he's not able to do it, they should change it with their tongue. Say something about it. And if you're not able to do that, then hate it in your heart. وَذَلِكَ أَضْعَفُ الْإِيمَانِ. And that is the lowest level of Iman. Or that's the weakest of Iman. So what about when you don't even hate it? I don't want to get too much into that, but you could tell I was outraged and I was deeply offended. And alhamdulillah, a lot of people spoke about this, but it turns out that it's not only this young man who holds this belief, but there are other people who also hold this belief, and it's really saddening, okay? And more so because it came from a Black person, a Somalian like myself, to be so insensitive to the plight of Black people being hunted and murdered by the police and then dismissed by the state, and then to use Islam to justify your indifference. There's something wrong with your tarbiyah. There's something wrong with your education, and there is something wrong with your aqidah. But this is just one random brother I understand on Instagram voices his opinion. So I was thinking, why do I need to just respond to him? But it's not just one random brother. It's a thought. It's a belief that unfortunately a lot of Muslims, including born Muslims who happen to be black, and non-black Muslims hold towards our black Muslim communities, and it's something that needs to be addressed. And so I thought to myself, well, okay, you may think that you're a random person. However, I did do a master's in education where I focused on issues regarding culturally responsive pedagogy, and I've dug deep into the issue regarding white supremacy and how white supremacy affects minorities, and how the educational system is built on Eurocentric values, which are rooted in white supremacy and colonialism. And so I had to like basically I had to say that, okay, so I had to get your act together. You do have something to share, so just whatever it is that you have to share, come out and share it, bi'idhnillah. So that's what I'm here to do today. And inshallah, another time we can talk about the different curricular and pedagogical approaches that we should consider in our goals to provide a holistic Islamic education for our kids. But today I want to speak specifically about anti-black racism and how you can use, how you can take a more anti-racist approach in addressing the topic of anti-black racism. When I say anti-racist or anti-pedagogy, this is towards all colored people that we have to consider, whether it be natives, whether it be people from the East, whether it be just any colored or non-white cultures and societies. But in this, because of everything that's happening, I thought it would be a great place to start by talking about anti-black racism, and since that is the most prevalent, inshallah. And you know, as Muslims, we can appreciate and understand what is meant by racism because we know the reality of Islamophobia. But unfortunately, when it comes to discussing anti-black racism, that's kind of washed away or disregarded. And that's why I think it's important that we tackle this topic. So, what can you do as a teacher and a nurturer of children? Okay, so I've come up with a few tips on how you can begin to do the work of being an anti-racist educator. All right. So the first one is that the first thing you must absolutely do is you must learn and then unlearn. Now, I recommend that you learn history because everything that's happening today, whether it be in America to black people or in other countries, there is a historical context. Learn about not just the horrors of slavery and the psychological and physical trauma, but learn about all the laws that have been put in place post-slavery to continue the system of oppression. Learn how the dominant culture operates, and how it marginalizes and classes everyone as a second-class citizen. Learn how this is then conveyed and reinforced in the media, in literature, and even in educational textbooks. Read books, articles, research papers on any topic affecting human life to see the stark difference between black people and minorities and the dominant race. And since you now have a historical context regarding why situations are the way they are and why certain racial groups are at the bottom of the ladder, you can then begin to understand and appreciate the reason why a lot of us are falling behind when we are compared to our white counterparts or white passing counterparts. And then you will begin to realize and understand that it is not anything that's inherently deficient within ourselves because of our skin color. It's not. It's rather it is due to a system that is designed to ensure one group benefits and stays on top at the expense of another. Now, once you've gained that knowledge and you've learned that and your eyes have been open and you've become woke and you realize that, okay, there's actually a system in play that resulted in the way things are. Now the unlearning can start. you start to pay close attention to your reactions, your statements, your beliefs about people and situations, and begin to question yourself. Why did I say that? Why do I think that? Why do I believe that? Why do I feel that way about this person? And why do I accept that? What why is this normal to me, or why is this not normal to me? This is a process of growth, and I'm Black, and it was only after my masters that I realized how much unlearning and self-checking I had to do. I had to continuously check the language that I use. I had to continuously recheck the way I interpreted situations, and what my opinions were based off. There was a lot of unlearning, and it was a really humbling process. And when you start teaching and you're teaching your children, you do the same with your children. Okay, for example, if you're reading a book together or you're watching a program together, then make it a point to point out stereotypes, or make it a point to normalize Black achievements. And when they tell you a story about something that is racially driven, then make it a point to correct it. I'll give you an example. My daughter one day comes to me and she says, "Hey, did you know that maids in Egypt harm the children or harm the babies or something like that?" And I was like, "Where in the world did she get this?" To say that. Then I said, I asked her where she got it. So she told her it was her Egyptian friend who is who's a neighbor. And I told her that I had to correct her and explain to her that obviously there's good people and bad people everywhere, but this is not true. And this is not a categorization that you can make about maids and about maids in Egypt. Okay? Just like we have here in Qatar and we have all over the world, you will find people who do good things and people who do evil things. Just because one person did something, it doesn't mean that all the people from that culture do that thing. So this is not true. So I did take some time to speak to her about it and explain to her how this is false. It's a false narrative and it's not true. But the point is, I didn't just leave her uncorrected there. And it's important to stop, regardless of what you're doing and how busy you are, don't just dismiss it. Always stop and check them and explain to them why such language and such thoughts and such interpretations of situation is cruel and evil. If you notice that somebody is doing something wrong, it doesn't mean that all the people from that particular region or that skin color should take the blame for that. Okay, what else can you do? Which goes on to the next point. Watch the language you use to talk about skin color and tones, or to point out beauty. I think regardless of your background, there is a problem with colorism in your culture. The lighter the skin, the better, and the darker, the worse. Fair and lovely. I know we have that problem as Somalians and East Africans. And I had an Indian neighbor, a lovely sister, amazing family. They're just role models for me. Beautiful family. So her son, he was dark skinned, and he was being teased by his friends for his dark skin. So she was talking to me about this, and then she told me that she says to him, this is how Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala created you, this is qadar, this is such words like that. And I told her, and she wants to comfort her son and give him something to be content about. However, I corrected her and I told her, yes, but you've made it seem like the dark skin is a disadvantage, or you've made it seem like the dark skin is actually something that that is not good, that he should just accept it. Inshallah, he will have a better life and better skin color in Jannah, perhaps. Wallahu a'lam. And then she started to realize, oh, that's true. And I said, you have to be careful with the language that you use with your children. For example, when your children are outside playing in the sun, avoid saying things like, "Don't be out in the sun, you'll get darker." And she said, "Oh yeah, that's true." So she started to realize how the language can cause children to feel certain ways, because she felt that even her 3-year-old daughter doesn't like him, perhaps because of his skin color. And that it is a really sad situation, but it comes from the language that we use. How do you speak about skin tones? Oh, is this person beautiful versus this person? you know, you should try this, you become lighter. Try this lightening cream and things like that. So obviously, children, they pick up on that and they start to realize that light is beauty. And I know because I'm dark skinned, and I was as Somalian, I was teased when I was younger for being dark skinned from my family. But after learning, becoming woke and unlearning, I've I've um, I've started to embrace my skin color and just be happy about it. And my babies, when they're born, they're usually very light. They do grow into their color afterwards, but they're very light. So sometimes people may comment, oh, you know, mashallah, they're light, because lightness, you know, is a virtue in the Somali community. And I would always just correct them. I would stop and make a point and say, yes, but she's black, and even if she was dark skinned, there would be no issue. It doesn't make a difference. And so you just have to keep on unlearning and keep on. Once you start doing that with yourself, then you'll be in a better position to start checking other people and correcting them on the language they use and showing them how. All right, so my third tip is to expose yourself to Black Muslim communities. Have Black friends, introduce your children to Black Muslims, different Muslim ethnic groups of Black people. We come in so many different shades and shapes and forms and different cultures, etc. So socializing is the best way to repel racial biases, because it becomes much easier to reject false narratives when you have so much anecdotal proofs against the narrative. Uh, Point four, seek out Black literature and have a diverse set of books for your learners to read that have Black characters who are just normal kids. Nothing to do with slavery or oppression, nothing to do with famine, nothing to do with poverty, just a protagonist doing what the protagonist does. Because we're constantly being dehumanized, and so we need the world to see more images of us just being humans, we're doing what humans do and living human lives. That was four. Okay, so the fifth tip that I want to share with you is when studying a subject, or when you're teaching, when you're teaching a topic, then make an effort to represent Black societies. Don't just study European history, literature, culture, civilizations, cities, because that's what the curriculum does, or that's what the curriculum requires, or most textbooks are revolved around your European culture. But make it an effort to seek out Black personalities who are inventors or contributors, or include Black civilizations and countries and cultures in your studies. Teach about different people the way the curriculum teaches is about Newton, Edison, Terry Fox, and so on. That's really important, because then you expose the child to different cultures of Black people, and don't just save the discussion or don't just save the discussion of Black people for Black History Month. Just including the curriculum throughout the year. Anyways, as a general principle, you want to always aim for achievements of Muslims and highlight Muslim accomplishments, because generally as Muslims we are being erased as well, right? But make an effort to not exclude Black Muslim achievements, because we have to do the work against negative narratives about us even within Muslim and Islamic societies. Now, I want you to check out the hashtag Muslim bloggers against racism. There are, mashallah, so many posts and so many great people sharing a lot of great information and books written by Black authors, or storybooks with Black characters, mashallah. Nowadays, so many brilliant Muslim authors are publishing great quality books showing Muslim characters. Allahumma barik. You can find them on Instagram, and these days they've been making more effort to highlight the books that have specifically Black characters and great storylines. So check that out, hashtag Muslim bloggers against racism. Now I'm on point 6, I think. Yeah. No Black Islamic history. Okay. We have been unfortunately erased from the Islamic narrative, yet Black people have played and continue to play a significant role in Islam. But you would think there is absolutely no representation of Black people in Islamic history or scholarship. Any idea what that does to our spirituality and our sense of self? when you grow up as a Black Muslim, but you never read or hear about, you only hear that other people have been doing great things and righteousness looks a certain way and is of a certain shade. Yet we know that there is no racism in Islam. But if that's, we know that, obviously there's no racism in Islam. Islam is a just religion. But then why are we erased from the narrative? In the Quran, there are many important figures who were Black, including prophets and messengers. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala never points out their skin color because, of course, your skin color has no relevancy to your righteousness. As Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, Inna akramakum indallahi atqakum. The most honorable amongst you is the one who has the most piety. But then, why is it that when race is brought up and blackness or anti-blackness is mentioned, then the only example people can think of is Bilal radiallahu anhu? Tell me about Musa alayhi salam, the one who Allah spoke to directly. Tell me about Luqman, the Abyssinian, who an entire surah was named after, and who we take as a role model on how we parent our children. Tell me about the Prophet of Allah, Sulaiman, who Allah granted a kingdom that no one was ever or will ever be given. Tell me about Hajar, alayhi salam, the wife of Ibrahim and the mother of Ismail, who is the forefather of Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam, who we follow in our Hajj and our Umrah rituals. And what about the countless other Sahabis who were not freed slaves but were among the virtuous? And the countless scholars, the Moors of Al-Andalus, the knowledge centers of Timbuktu, the Mali Empire, and Mansa Musa, the history of African Muslims who traveled to the Americas centuries before Columbus, and the list goes on. And the point is that most of us don't even know this. But I'm sure if we knew more about this, then the greatness and contributions of Black Muslims, if we knew more about the greatness and the contribution of Black Muslims, then the stereotypes of Blacks being inherently evil, or the Blackness being inherently evil or lazy, that is often attributed to Black people, wouldn't stand a chance, because we have so many examples, and we've seen it, and it's just been a normal part of our studies to see Black people represented in Islam. Okay, next point is get into the habit of listening. Okay, and this is one of the most important points, and it also is connected to my first point, which is learning and unlearning. Get into the habit of listening and acknowledging that your view of the world or an issue, your view of the world or your view of an issue is not always the reality and should not be projected onto others. And teach these lessons to your child. Know when it's your place to talk and when it's not. And listen to the experiences of others. Don't dismiss them. Get to know their struggles and their concerns, and always center the victims. Okay. So, for example, you see the destruction happening across cities in America. If you're not there physically on the ground, or you're not well researched on the social issues surrounding the issue, or you do not come from those communities, then you should check yourself before you voice your opinion on what is happening and what this really means about people who are looting or setting fires, or just refrain and listen to what other people are saying. Listen to their pains and their struggles, inshallah. And that is an important, humbling lesson to also pass on to your children as well. Next point 8, I believe I'm on. Learn about different pedagogical approaches, such as social justice pedagogy, which covers all areas of social justice, okay, including climate change, anti-racism, globalization, and the wealth gap, and things like that. Social justice generally, and more specifically, anti-racist pedagogy. Learn about culturally responsive pedagogy and the research on that. This will be very helpful for you as an educator, inshallah. And there are tons of resources online, which I will share. I'll share some things in a minute. I'll share some things, but there are a ton of resources and lesson plans and ideas that you can take and you can implement in certain ways that you can teach the curriculum with a more social justice approach, inshallah. All right, so before I go, I'm going to leave you with a few resources to inspire you and get you on your way to being a better and more conscious teacher. somebody who is equipped with the necessary knowledge to make a difference in this world through your teaching and tarbiyah bi'idhnillah. Now, this is not an exhaustive list, but it's a great place to start. And inshallah, my hope is just to get the wheels spinning and just to give you enough to start knowing what else you can research, what else is out there, and get you to start thinking on ways that you can take a more anti-racist approach towards teaching and a more social justice approach towards teaching, so that we can pass that on to our children, so our children can be agents of social change. Okay. Now, when I started Mecca-centric education, or regarding Mecca-centric education, it's not only about strengthening the child's Muslim identity and them knowing their religion and having the correct aqidah, but it's also them being agents of social change within their societies or within their scope. And that's what the Muslim is. The Muslim should be at the forefront in fighting injustice. The Muslim should be at the forefront in removing oppression and in teaching people. It should be at the forefront in contributing to world development and contributing to humanity and producing things that are khair for all of humanity, for the Muslim Ummah, and for people in general. Like we should be the best in everything, basically. So I'll be sharing a number of new resources. Let's start with some books I have. Okay. Now, just a disclaimer. I am in no way presenting these resources or making these recommendations as Islamic references that comply 100% to the Sharia, nor am I claiming that they are in line 100% with the Quran and Sunnah. But they are great resources for anyone looking to better understand how racial injustices are perpetuated and to gain ideas on how you can begin to do the racial work within your scope as a teacher. And just like everything you read and everything you learn, and you take what is in accordance with your Islamic values, you adapt what you need to adapt, and you skip and you leave what doesn't suit you or what doesn't benefit you or what is not in line with the Quran and Sunnah. But I mean, you can take you can definitely, there's a lot to gain, mashallah, and you can just adapt it just like you do with all the other curriculum books that you use. So I want to start with this particular book. Okay. I'll link it, inshallah. This book is published by Teaching for Change, and it's a website, and I'll share the website as well, teachingforchange.org, and they publish a whole bunch of books. But this book is called Beyond Heroes and Holidays, a practical guide to K-12 anti-racist multicultural education and staff and development. And what I love about the name Beyond Heroes and Holidays is it's basically based on the notion that to have a more racially just society, it's not enough just to teach about people's holidays or to talk about their heroes and their personalities. It's not just about that. It's about learning about their history, learning about how they have been systemically oppressed. Okay, so this book is great because not only is it teaching, it's not just a book for you to read and get information from, but it also has lesson plans. It has text passages. It has resources that you can use for teaching and things like that. It's based on an American curriculum, but I know a lot of Canadian teachers use it as well. And you can pick and choose some things about it that may be relevant to you if you don't live in America or Canada. But it is, check it out, inshallah. Another book that I have here is Rethinking Globalization, Teaching for Justice in an Unjust World. Now, this is not specifically about anti-racist pedagogy, but it's about how globalization has impacted the rest of the world and the impact that colonialism has caused upon the world and how it has led to the injustices and the oppression that takes place in many countries around the world. So the authors, when they wanted to write this book, they wanted to focus on child labor, and that's what they were hoping to write about, child labor. But then the more they started to write about it, the more they realized that we cannot speak about child labor until we talk about colonialism and what led to the conditions of those countries to to even allow child labor to exist, or to allow sweatshops to exist, and the situation of people working for $1 a day, for example, working for almost nothing. So this is also a great resource in understanding how colonialism works and how it has continued, and how it continues to affect many societies around the world. And I will share with you some other websites, inshallah. Okay, so the first website I would like to share with your organization rather is Muslim Anti-Racism Collaborative, so Muslim ARC, and they are an organization based in America. They do a number of work related to racial equity and anti-racism, anti-blackness in the Muslim communities. So you may have a look at their website and check out the resources they have available, if they have any workshops or webinars. I know that they do have a curriculum for schools, and they do training for Islamic schools as well. So you may want to have a look at this website and see how you can benefit from their resources, inshallah, or even contact them on their social media networks. Another website that I would like to share with you, it's not a Muslim or Islamic website. However, it is a fantastic resource for social justice pedagogy and social justice curricula. It's called teachingforchange.org. And they have many different projects that they have here, as you can see, anti-bias education. And each one of these things are actually other websites and other projects dedicated to those topics. So they even have one on challenging Islamophobia, lessons, articles, recommended books, and more. And the idea when it comes to social justice pedagogy or anti-racism or Islamophobia and things like that is not just about being familiar with people and their cultures and understanding, for example, the religion of Islam, but it is about getting to the root causes of Islamophobia, what drives it. Same with in our topic today regarding anti-blackness and racism. What are the root causes of it? These are the important things that we have to be discussing and teaching so that we can come up with better solutions, inshallah. So they, like I said, they have tons of teacher resources. They have lesson plans, they have book publications, and they also have a number of recommended book lists depending on what topic, what area of social justice that you're interested in. Children book reviews, children books, again, on different topics related to social justice, whether it be racism, climate change, whether it be just really anything related to social justice education. And then they have their own publications. One of them I've already shared with you, Beyond Heroes and Holidays. So this is something that you definitely would like to have a look at. Again, this is American based, and America is doing a lot of fantastic work in the areas of culturally responsive teaching and social justice education and things like that. Unfortunately, it's not being trickled down into the school systems. However, they are really producing a lot of work and materials to help us as educators approach education from a more just and racially equity perspectives. Another website that you may want to have a look at is called Rethinking Schools. So same idea. This website is slightly different in terms of the amount of resources that they have available. However, this is definitely a place that you would like to come check out, read the articles, read the blogs, check out their book publications, and see what else they have available. Okay, the next website that I want to share with you, or organization or institute rather, is Yaqeen Institute. You can find it at yaqeeninstitute.org, and they are a Muslim organization based in America, mashallah, who are adherent to the Quran and the Sunnah, and they publish a number of articles and research on things affecting Muslims and all things related to Muslims, whether it be fighting Islamophobia or just doing research on Muslims or providing resources for the Muslim community and the Muslim Ummah to be stronger believers living in this world. So they have a ton of things. As you can see, they have articles. They also do research and collect data on Muslims to figure out what the current trends and problems are. They have publications, academic research papers, because it's made up of a collaborative of Muslim scholars in various fields and various sciences. They have lectures and khutbas, animations. They have curriculum. They have talking conversations. They have just so many things. They even have a classroom. They're working on providing resources or a curriculum that integrates Islam into the school curriculum. So for our topic regarding racism and anti-blackness, you can find a number of things as well. Just have a look at their recent publications or their recent articles. Okay, so I think here they have in their talk toolkits the gravity of one murder. I haven't clicked on everything, but they do make an effort to tackle current affairs and to present the perspective from Muslim or Islamic perspectives to basically have a discourse that is Islamic based. So you take advantage of the search button. Okay, follow them on social media to see any webinars and or lessons that they're offering. But for this topic of racism, this is definitely a place that you can come and learn more information, inshallah ta'ala. Okay, so another website that I would like to share with you, it's a blog rather, is muslimmatters.org. And it's not like Yaqeen Institute. Yaqeen Institute is more academic based. They share research papers and literature. This is more of a blog based. However, there are a number of Muslims who, mashallah, write amazing articles and share their experiences and their perspectives and their knowledge and expertise on various topics affecting Muslim life. That's why it's called Muslim Matters. But what we're interested is in the tags or the post tagged anti-Muslim racism. So here, just to make things easy for you regarding the topic at hand, you can go to that tag and then you can go through all the articles that are tagged anti-black racism or anti-racism or racism. Okay, you can use the search button. Two that I would like to recommend if you get a chance from the same site. Both of them are written by Sister Marguerite Hill, who's I believe one of the founders of Muslim Arc, and she's an expert in the field, mashallah, and does a lot of work in this particular field. And she wrote these two articles. She wrote many articles actually on Muslim Matters, but two that I would like to recommend for the sake of this video is Beyond Muslim Diversity to Racial Equity, and the other one is Taqwa Through Anti-Bias Education. So both of these I highly recommend. They reinforce some of the things that I have been sharing, and she, as an African American, shares her experiences with racism from a young age as well as racism within the Muslim community. Okay. The last thing I want to share with you is my YouTube channel, where I've created a playlist for you. Yes, I only have 22 subscribers. I'm new at this, so do show me some love and subscribe, inshallah. One of them is, I just called it Current Affairs. It only has one video, but I highly recommend if you want to gain a better understanding of the case of George Floyd and why there is such an uproar and why this is so important for everybody in general, but Black Muslims specifically, then you might want to have a listen to Sheikh Kareem Abu Zaid's interview with Dr. Tahir White. Dr. Tahir White is the first African American who was granted a seat to teach in the Prophet's Masjid. He holds a PhD, I believe, in Aqidah from the University of Medina. He is from Philadelphia. And he is basically talking about the situation. He talks about, he gives you a very good overall view and perspective of the situation at hand, how it affects us, what our role is as Muslims, and I highly recommend that you take some time to listen to that interview. It's not too long. Okay, I've created this playlist here.
There is a shortage of 500,000.
sorry about that. I've created a playlist here. If you are interested in learning more, which I highly recommend you do, learning more about Black Muslim history, or it's not just Black Muslim history, it's Muslim Islamic history and the role that Black people played and continue to play in Islamic history, and how integral a part we are of Islamic history, because we are part of the Muslim community and we are part of the history, obviously. Now, I highly recommend, regardless of what cultural background you're from, what ethnicity you are, that you expose your children and you take some time, whether it be to cover a unit, and if you teach multiple diverse group of students, if you are a teacher in a school, then I highly, highly, highly encourage that you include everybody into into your Islamic teaching. Okay, that all children should be familiar with how their people or where they're from played a role in Islam, so that they can see themselves in Islam and they can be inspired to continue and to really truly feel the diversity of this ummah, that Islam was not only pushed forward by one group of people, but everybody played a role. Allahumma barik. So here, so that I don't get off topic, for the topic at hand regarding anti-blackness, then a great place to start in learning and unlearning is by educating yourself on Islamic history as it relates to Black people. So here I compile, there's a bunch of things on YouTube, but here I compiled some things that I think you'd really gain from. This was a really amazing interview. If you're short on time, you can, InFeed has a podcast and you can download it on any podcast player, but they also have the interview taped and uploaded onto YouTube. But they, this interview they had with Brother Mustafa Briggs was really amazing. He covered a lot of information on the contributions of Black people, past and present, in Africa, Islamic scholarship amongst Africans, and things like, so many things that he covered. Okay, Deeper Roots by Sheikh Abdullah Hakim Quick is definitely a course that you may want to consider taking or listening through. I took it as a course for one semester when I was in Toronto with the Sheikh, but since then he has delivered it for free at Abu Huraira Masjid, and that has been uploaded online. I have class 1 here. However, you can find the rest of the classes on YouTube, and this definitely was an eye-opener. It's one of the things that started me on my work towards Mecca-centric education, and it's actually where I got the name Mecca-centric education, because he went into details about he presented the proof, the historical proof, and the evidences and the artifacts of Muslim presence in the Americas far before the arrival of Christopher Columbus, and way before slavery or the white colonialists had entered or bumped into North America. So this was definitely very inspirational for not knowing so much about Muslims and their contributions to the Americas for so long, and to come across this course that laid out all the evidences, and he even showed pictures and things like that, and artifacts of the proof that Muslims were present and had traveled, gone to the Americas and back centuries before Christopher Columbus. It was really very inspirational, and it's one of the things that inspired me to move forward regarding Mecca-centric education. Another eye-opener was this list that Sheikh Umar Suleiman shared. It's an incomplete list of Black prophets. Like I said, and we all know that color, it has no relevancy in Islam and in a person's righteousness, and because what really matters is the taqwa of the person. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala did not choose who he chose to be prophets and who he honored in the Quran based on skin color. However, to not know that some of the major figures in the Quran and major prophets like Musa alayhi salam were Black, this was shocking to me, to say the least. but this is definitely something that you may want to look at. I think this clip is from a larger seminar called Black and Noble. I believe that they did in Dallas, Texas, if I'm not mistaken. Anyways, I listened to, I think I've listened to a number of hours of that particular seminar and course. So you can have a look there. I think it was over a weekend. I don't know if it was over a week. It was many hours long, but it's there and it's available if you want a more in-depth study. But this is just a summary of some of the prophets and messengers that are mentioned in the Quran that happen to be black. Okay, and you can go through these links, and I'm sure you'll find a ton of other information on Black Muslim history. And like I said, this is really important work to begin to do the learning and the unlearning of the racial biases that we have within ourselves, even if you don't realize it. And beyond this, you want to also learn about Muslim contributions as it relates to you, your family, your ethnicity and your culture, because this is what unites us. You need to be confident and know who you are, where you're from, be grounded in that, and then and also know other people, as Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala said that He has created us as people of tribes, so that we may لِتَعَارَفُوا, so that we may know one another. So knowing your culture and your history is an important part of who you are and how you progress in the world. But I'm going to leave you with that, inshallah. Please do visit my blog page if you're not already watching this video on my page, meccacentriceducation.com. And where I upload this particular post is where you will find all the links, inshallah, that I have shared with you today. So I hope that was beneficial. I hope that this was a learning experience for you. And I would love to know what is one takeaway that what is one thing that you will take away from this video that I made today, and what is one thing that you will do differently as it relates to your teaching and your tarbiyah of your students or your children. Okay. Until next time, Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.